Alright, it means welcome back for another pre-match analysis. We do play Espanyol tomorrow at the Estadio Santiago Bernabeu, which is going to be a very interesting game because Espanyol were a team that were playing in the second division last year for the very first time in a really long time. And they are doing pretty good this season. They are 12th in the table, which is a good thing to see because we are kind of brothers with Espanyol as a team because, you know, they dislike Barcelona as much as we do. I don't really expect it to be an easy game. We do have a lot to break down. We got injuries, player news, and lineup predictions for tomorrow's game, so just stick around and enjoy the video. Alright, it means let's start with some injury news. We don't have that many injury updates to give you, but Ancelotti did have his pre-match press conference today, and he did give us a little bit of an update in the Camavinga situation. I did mention this in the pre-match analysis that I did for the Stuttgart game. Camavinga is set to start training on Monday, September 23rd, which is something that I'm really looking forward to. I really do miss him because we are going to talk about lineup predictions in a second, but I do feel like we're lacking a lot of options without Camavinga on the field. Don't get me wrong, I do think that we have players like Arda Güler, for instance, that can definitely play in the center midfield position, but I'm getting tired of the fact that we kind of have to accommodate for all these injuries that we have. We did recover Jude Bellingham, we did recover Tchouaméni, but we are still missing Brahim, for instance. Ceballos is also injured, and they are going to be out for quite a while, so we don't really have any updates for you in that regard. Now, the good thing about this Real Madrid squad is that we do have a lot of players, we do have a lot of depth, which is something that the Barca fan base, including Joan Laporta, who is the president of the club, they made a lot of comments regarding the idea that we're going to have troubles in the locker room because of how many players we have, and we're not going to be able to fit everybody in the starting 11, which honestly is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard, given the fact that this, schedule is absolutely packed, which is actually my next talking point, because one of the biggest topics right now in the sport of football is the fact that players are against how packed this schedule of play is. For instance, in a press conference this week, Man City's Rodri came out to say that players were considering going on strike because of the lack of rest. And Ancelotti was asked about this today, and he claimed that players would probably be willing to take a pay cut for more rest days, because at the end of the day, having less games means less injuries. Now, the only position in the team that really worries me in terms of injuries is the center back position, because we do not have any depth whatsoever. But aside from that, I do feel like Real Madrid are very well equipped to go on through this entire season, including the Club World Cup. Only Man City are probably the only other club, maybe even Chelsea, because they do have a ridiculous amount of players and they are going to be participating in the World Cup this summer. But hey, I feel for the players. FIFA and UEFA are really taking a toll on the rest days, and I feel like this sooner or later is going to come back to bite everybody in the sport. Now, aside from that, Ancelotti did mention the possibility that Endrick will be starting one of the upcoming games for Real Madrid, which is a good thing because I do want the kid to get more minutes. And yeah, I don't think that he will be starting against Espanyol, because I do think that Ancelotti mentioned in the next couple of games for a reason. But hey, you never know. Now, the last thing that I would like to touch on in terms of what Ancelotti said in his press conference today is what he said about tiki-taka. He mentioned the fact that the Bernabeu does not like tiki-taka, he does not like touch play, which honestly I 100% agree with. He stated that as a fan base, Real Madrid like a rock and roll style of play, and it's not about how you play, because at the end of the day, what really matters is getting the win. And that's something that really resonates with me, because that's how I feel about the sport overall. Tiki-taka is a cool style of play and all, but what I really care about at the end of the day is winning, and I would much rather win in a very dramatic fashion like we have over the last couple of years than win 4-5-0 dominating the passing game, which is honestly something that just doesn't really interest me, it doesn't entertain me, which is something that's trademark of Barcelona to do, and I feel like that at the end of the day is probably their biggest enemy, because they want to preserve a style of play, but I really believe that in the sport you have to be able to adapt to the players that you have, because it's their philosophy to preserve the tiki-taka style. But I feel like that plays against them, because in this sport you have to adapt the style of play based off of the players that you have at hand, not the other way around. You can't force a style of play on players. If you really want to get the best out of your players, you have to play to their strengths. And listen, Barca have actually been playing really well lately. Hansi Flick is an incredible manager. He proved it at Bayern Munich when he won the treble. Ironically enough, he was the manager that beat Barcelona 8-2 in the Champions League. And listen, I'm excited to see a Barcelona team that's actually competitive. I do not want LaLiga to turn into a Bundesliga, and I feel like that's what's going to happen if Barcelona don't pick it up. Atletico Madrid are going to be stagnant so as long as Simeone is in the team, so that is not really something that interests me. I do want Barcelona to be better than they were last year, and the fact that Hansi Flick is getting the best out of his players right now goes to show that Xavi wasn't that good of a coach, which is also something that I've been preaching over the last 3 years.
El césped no era lo suficientemente verde como para imponer mi filosofía de juego.
Anyways, they did lose yesterday, but if you look at the game, if you look at the highlights, I feel like Ter Stegen really messed up. Eric Garcia did get a red card, but if you look at the play and the way that he got sent off, it was all Ter Stegen's fault. The guy has been very bad this season, which is very weird because he has been Barcelona's best player over the last couple of seasons. But he gave a terrible pass to Eric Garcia, and Eric Garcia just had to do everything he could so that the other team just doesn't take the ball and score. And unfortunately for them, that was the play that cost them the game. The last piece of news that I do want to touch on is the reports that came out of Brazil this past week. week, in which Neymar has been apparently saying that Mbappe is the devil. Now, this is something that I commented on yesterday in the post-game analysis of the Stuttgart match, which, by the way, the link will be in the description if you want to check it out. But Neymar coming out and telling people that Mbappe is the devil, I feel like it's just very funny to me. Because if you pay attention to the close relationships that are within this Real Madrid locker room, for instance, Mbappe, Bellingham, Rodrigo, Vinicius, they all look like really good friends. And honestly, I do feel like Ancelotti deserves a lot of credit for this because he is the master at bringing everybody together. He brings good vibes to the club, and I do think that this Real Madrid locker room is a family. So my take on why Neymar is coming out to say that is because Neymar lacked a certain level of professionalism. And don't get me wrong, I don't think that Neymar was always super unprofessional, but I do think that when he left Barca and he joined a club like PSG, in which he was basically allowed to do whatever he wanted, he lost himself. He should have stayed at Barca. I think that was the biggest mistake that Neymar ever made in his career, because the level of professionalism that you have to show at a club like Barca, in which, you know, the demands are so high, doesn't really match what PSG is, and I feel like that's something that really plays against PSG. Neymar was literally known for hosting poker nights the night before a Champions League match, and he would order McDonald's delivery for everybody to eat. They would go to sleep super late, and I don't feel like he was a professional at all, and I feel like that's where Kylian Mbappe and him clashed. Because Mbappe grew up in Paris, he was born there, he wanted to win the Champions League with his team, and Neymar's lack of professionalism was the reason why it was so hard for him to achieve that. So do I think that Mbappe is the devil? Absolutely not. I just think that he's the guy that put Neymar on his ass. But anyways, enough about this Neymar drama bullshit. Let's get to the starting lineup predictions. Now, as you can see on the screen here, this is what I would like to see from the team tomorrow. We got Courtois in goal, Carvajal as a right back, Militao and Rudiger as center back buddies, Mendy on the left, Tchouaméni as CDM, Bellingham as a center midfield, Valverde as a center midfield. This is pretty straightforward. Now, the only change that I really want to see, and this is really based off of merit, I think Rodrigo deserves to start on the left with Arda Güler on the right. I do want to see Arda Güler play, and Mbappe up top, of course, but the truth is that this is never going to happen. So this is my starting 11 prediction for tomorrow's game against Espanyol. Now, before we get into it, I would like to say that I would not be surprised if Ancelotti comes out with the same starting 11 that he had for the Champions League game against Stuttgart. Ancelotti is famously known for a guy that doesn't really rotate the starting 11 that much, which is something that last season he was kind of forced to change, and I feel like he's a changed man. But because of the crazy schedule that we do have until the next international break, I really do think that this is a very real possibility for the starting 11 tomorrow. Again, Courtois in goal, Carvajal on the right, Militao and Rudiger as center back buddies, and we do plug in Fran Garcia to give Mendy some rest. Remember, Mendy is injury prone, so I do think that this would be a good rotation to have. Now, I put Valverde at CDM because he's actually really good in that position. I also feel like if Tchouaméni is going to start this game, he might be replacing Militao, because for some reason Militao did not start last game, and I feel like it could be a fitness reason, it could be an injury reason, so I would not be surprised if Tchouaméni is the center back that starts tomorrow's game. You got Bellingham as center mid, and the other midfield position that we would see if Tchouaméni does not start would be Modric or Arda Güler, which again, I love to see Modric play. I do want to see him play, but I also feel like he doesn't have the same engine that he used to have, so I do think it would be good for Arda Güler to get some minutes, and it would be good for his confidence to start the match and maybe bring in Modric as a super sub. And lastly, the front three, we can just leave it as it is. Now, with this front three, based off of what Ancelotti said earlier today about Endrick, don't be surprised if you see Endrick in the starting lineup as the starting striker, with Mbappe playing on the left wing and Rodrigo playing on the right. Yes, we sacrificed Vinny because Vinny is the player that is most out of form. But yeah, that means obviously on paper we do have a better team than Espanyol, so it should be an easy win, especially because we play at home. But with these La Liga games, you never really know, because when Spanish teams play against Real Madrid, it's like playing the World Cup final for them, which is something that's very true. When Spanish teams play against Real Madrid, they play a lot better than when they play against Barcelona. But hey, I guess that's a prize for being the best of the best. But with that being said, that means I do appreciate you tuning in. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to smash the thumbs up button, go subscribe to our channel. We will be going to the Espanyol game, so look out for the match day vlog. And with that being said, that means I will catch you guys next time. Peace.